Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, waiting and worrying. Gusty, warm winds fueling fear over wildfires as thousands countywide prepare to have their power pulled. Plus, the push to expand the convention center is back, but this time around, voters get to weigh in. And feeling like you're paying more for cable? You probably are. How you can cut costs. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. It is Thursday, October 10th. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jade Hindman. We begin tonight with a major power play underway from Northern California to San Diego County. Planned power outages are in the works because of red flag warnings and the fear of wildfires. We begin our state coverage with KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman live in Ramona with an update on the situation here at home. Matt.
Yeah, Jade, the National Weather Service, they've issued that red flag warning until tomorrow with these Santa Ana winds coming in, this dry, hot weather. You might hear it right now. It is a little windy out here. But basically, the red flag warning means that East County and North County are at an extremely high risk for wildfires. We could be seeing tonight and tomorrow morning winds as high as 50 miles per hour. And we actually have some breaking news for you right now. Originally, SDG&E expecting as many as 30,000 customers may lose their power. We've just been told that's dropped to 18,000 people, including customers right here in Ramona. Now, we were out in Ramona today. We saw some businesses hooking up generators and preparing for a potential shutoff. SDG&E is looking to kill power in the hopes of preventing a fire from starting in the first place. We aren't seeing nearly as high numbers for shutoffs as customers in Northern California are. People we talked to today say they were notified about the potential shutoff and are basically preparing for the worst. One equipment business says people have been calling asking about getting generators.
We got a lot of calls today and a lot of calls yesterday because they sent out the warnings, right? So everybody goes, how many generators do you have? Well, you know, we have several generators and we don't have enough to supply the need. There's no way. There's two other rental yards in this town. They don't have enough generators to supply the need. I don't know if there's enough generators in the whole county to supply the need that would be required so everybody would be protected if they cut off the power. So it's just one of those things, is like, it's the new reality. You know, I think people are adapting to it, but they're not there yet. You know, that's why the panic and the phone calls that we get, it's more of a panic. You know, they're really worried. What are we going to do?
The notice I got was from the health department letting us know that when the power goes off, make sure that all of our food handlers understand we shut down all the food preparation, everything gets packed up and gets in the refrigerators, and the refrigerators don't get open because they'll last 4 to 6 hours. Most everything will be okay.
Yeah, now you just heard there, that'll last 4 to 6 hours for that one business owner if the power shuts off. After that 4 to 6 hours, though, he might actually have to start throwing stuff away. They did say, though, if the power was shut off in Ramona, they would like to actually give out some of that food before it goes bad. SDG&E also telling customers they want them to stay vigilant because these numbers, as we said, 18,000 customers right now that may have to have their power shut off, that could grow or shrink at any time depending on what these conditions are. A reminder, too, if there are going to be shutoffs, it's likely going to be tonight or tomorrow morning when those conditions are at their worst. In Ramona, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
All right, something we'll continue to follow. Matt, thanks. This fire weather could be sticking around for a while. Let's go to meteorologist Daji Aswad for more on the high winds and dry weather. Daji?
Dry conditions will continue to persist for tonight, as well as those wild winds. We've been seeing some gusts upwards to 50 miles per hour. And in fact, Devil Canyon report a 56 mile per hour winds. Also looking at some pretty gusty winds into Julian as well as Borrego Springs. As you head into tonight, winds will start to play with that terrain out there, especially in the mountains and valleys. That's going to add to some of those gusts, leading to some power outage potential. We still have that red flag warning in place until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. And as we continue into your Friday, well, there will be some improvements. But for tonight into tomorrow, strong winds bringing that high fire threat.
Daji, thanks. Switching gears now, the largest U.S. utility has turned power back on for about a fifth of the nearly 2 million people who lost power in Northern and Central California. It was done over a 2-day span in a deliberate move to prevent its equipment from sparking a wildfire. The improving weather condition means residents are almost out of the woods.
If you live in any affected area, stay at home as much as possible during this power shutoff.
Following in line with San Diego preparations, Pacific Gas and Electric purposely turned off power to about 750,000 customers as an effort to avoid igniting a wildfire. If not secured, heavy winds can topple transmission lines and start deadly fires.
Those are the types of incidents that really cause us concern.
PG&E agreed to pay billions of dollars for last year's fatal campfire because its equipment was linked to the blaze. Some residents venting their frustration.
If it wasn't for, I guess, a lack of PG&E doing their job in the first place, this probably wouldn't be necessary.
But with weather looking up, PG&E is now working to restore power starting in the northern and rural Humboldt County.
And improving weather conditions as of Thursday morning means that we're able to start picking customers back up. We're able to start the inspection process. Then we're able to start the restoration process. So we're able to start doing that in some areas on Thursday. In other areas, there are still impacting outages due to the high winds and the high fire threat risk.
PG&E says it's received reports of some damage to power lines, which must be repaired before power can be restored. Experts estimate there are between 2 to 3 people for each electrical customer.
After we're able to inspect, then if we see any damage, and I should mention that we have had some preliminary reports of damage to our lines, so we'll have to repair those damages before we can safely energize the lines. So that's another step in the process. And then the restoration will take place in a handful of phases.
The utility is closely monitoring strong winds developing in central California's Kern County, where about 4,000 customers could lose power today. While residents might be frustrated by the process, PG&E says it is for the best.
We understand that turning off power, it can be a difficult situation, and we are empathetic to that for all of our customers. And there are risks on both sides of having to deciding to turn off the power or keeping the power on. So we don't make that decision lightly, and it's a decision of last resort for us.
And for the latest updates on possible power outages in our county, we have a new map showing the areas still vulnerable. Just go to website kpbs.org. The push for a tax measure that would pay for a convention center expansion, homeless services, and road paving is back. KPBS Eric Anderson reports and explains what's different this time around.
My name's Jesse Garcia. I'm a proud member of the Carpenters Union.
A long line of people took a turn at the mic.
And I support Yes for a Better San Diego. Thank you.
And pledged their support for a measure that hopes to raise billions for some long sought after civic projects. San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer says the March 2020 initiative raises the hotel tourist tax by about 30%. The nightly room tax jumping from 10.5% to 13.5%.
We need this funding source. We need a permanent source of funding for homeless services. We need to expand our convention center and the dollars this will need for road improvement. These are the issues that San Diegans care about. And I think that's why you see such broad and deep public support for getting this done.
The measure sets aside $147 million a year for 5 years for homeless services and housing. It also creates a funding stream to repair 150 miles of city roads each year. City boosters also see the measure as a way to pay for a convention center overhaul.
If the measure passes and the money becomes available for expansion, what officials want to do is bump out the bay side of the convention center, in essence, doubling the amount of space on the floor.
They want to make sure that we're able to retain those large, wonderful conventions like Comic-Con here in San Diego. They want to see that the city has more resources to apply to the issue around homelessness. And they're also looking for the opportunity to make, quality of life better by improving our roads.
The measure won't be easy to pass. It needs 2/3 support from city voters for approval because it includes a tax increase.
Supporters only have 150 days to convince voters to back their measure. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
And if this measure sounds familiar, that's because it is. Yes for a Better San Diego was proposed back in 2018, but failed to get on the ballot. A new call is being made to push for stronger civilian oversight of police officers. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen sat down with Councilmember Monica Montgomery, who's leading the effort behind a new commission to investigate alleged misconduct away from internal affairs.
Last year, we saw this idea of a new independent police review commission die before it ever got a vote at the city council on whether to place it on the ballot. What's the status of your idea now, and how are you going to ensure that that doesn't happen again?
So we have seen and have been monitoring the Women Occupy ballot measure proposal, and it came to committee, our last committee meeting, which I believe was September 18th. So at that committee, it passed through unanimously, but it is coming back to committee with a legal analysis from the city attorney. And it was really important for me coming into office that we don't get caught in the procedural loopholes of this, that my colleagues are able to judge the proposal based on the merits of it and make a decision from there.
Supporters of this measure say that it's really about the process. They want a more independent process. But there are also some out there who are unhappy with the current outcomes of the current Community Review Board. For you, what is most important to you? And do you think that this new model with an independent investigation will actually lead to different outcomes?
I think it will. There were 4 major things that I was dedicated to since Inauguration Day. Based on civilian oversight of the police department, and those are the investigative powers, subpoena power, independent commission, and independent counsel. And this proposal has all of those factors in it, and so I think that we've been working really hard to ensure that it is an effective commission in word and in deed. And so that's what all the going back and forth is about. But I believe it will be effective, and it'll be sort of like a hybrid model where there will be some review mechanisms there, but the investigative power is the most important.
I spoke with the head of the Police Officers Association last year, the last time around. Mm-hmm. And something that he told me was that he felt like no matter how robust or independent a civilian review board is overseeing the police, that there are always going to be some people in the community that simply don't trust the police. What's your response to that?
First of all, it's no excuse for us not to do better. We have to do better. There will always be folks, just as you mentioned, folks that maybe want me to go a little bit further or don't want me to do this. I'm doing what I believe is right. I think the police officers should do what they believe is right. I think that every entity should have a check and a balance. That is what this is about. There will always be folks, either based on their own personal experience with officers or other influences, that do not trust police officers. That probably will never change. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't have strong oversight over any entity, including the police department.
This is an issue that you ran on during your campaign, possibly something that actually helped you get elected in your district. But now that we're seeing the real policy making happen, some of the details, some of the people who originally supported you are actually kind of pushing you to go further than what you might otherwise do. Mm-hmm. What has that been like for you?
It's politics, it's government. I'm dedicated to a good policy. The 4 factors are what I ran on. Subpoena power, which that was the only thing at issue when I ran, really. All of the rest of this was, is something that we've developed along over time. But the independent commission, independent counsel, investigative powers, and subpoena power are all wrapped up into the policy that I support. So in my view, I'm doing what I said I would do. For those who are not supporting or wanting it to go further, have that right, and I understand why. But I'm doing what I believe is right for the city.
Monica Montgomery, thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you.
From local politics to national politics now, I don't know them. That is what President Trump is saying tonight in response to the federal indictments handed down to 4 business associates of Rudy Giuliani. The indictment involves alleged connections to foreign donors to help influence American elections. More now from reporter Jessica Schneider.
Tonight, 2 associates of President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, indicted on charges they made political donations to a U.S. congressman while pushing him to help get rid of the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine on behalf of at least 1 Ukrainian official who wanted her gone. That's the same ambassador Trump removed from Ukraine this year, partially at the behest of Giuliani. Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman are charged with conspiracy, false statements, and funneling foreign money into U.S. elections.
Parnas and Fruman were arrested around 6 p.m. last night at Dulles Airport as they were about to board an international flight with one-way tickets.
The two men, along with two others also indicted, allegedly gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to a Trump-aligned super PAC. The indictment laying out that the contributions were made to advance their personal financial interests and the political interest of at least one Ukrainian government official with whom they were working. The men also allegedly made contributions to state candidates in Nevada to further a recreational marijuana business venture that never happened. That foreign money coming in part from an unnamed Russian citizen whose involvement they hid because of his Russian roots and current political paranoia about it.
This investigation is about corrupt behavior, deliberate lawbreaking.
According to prosecutors, the men pushed the former U.S. congressman, whose sources say is Texas Republican Pete Sessions, to help get former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine Marie Yovanovitch fired. The indictment alleges Parnas and Fruman attempted to gain influence by committing to raise $20,000 or more for a then-sitting U.S. congressman, and that Parnas sought that congressman's assistance in causing the U.S. government to remove or recall the then U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, at least in part, at the request of one or more Ukrainian government officials.
That was Jessica Schneider reporting. An update now on the wildfire concerns and power outages across the state. Southern California Edison has now cut power to some 15,000 customers, with another 174,000 under consideration due to the red flag warnings in 9 counties there. Meteorologist Daji Aswad has the latest on Santa Ana concerns. Daji?
We are still talking about this Santa Ana wind event across California, and we are feeling those winds tonight, at least into your Friday morning, and these darker shades of purple, especially as you head away from the coast, as we're going to have our strongest winds through your Friday morning. And our red flag warning, well, that remains in effect until 8 a.m. tomorrow. That's because we have low humidity and these strong winds gusting potentially up to 60 miles per hour. In some spots, even greater. That terrain definitely plays a role in a place like Pine Valley. Fall Brook also under that red flag warning. Now, for tonight, we're dropping down to 47 in Oceanside, a low 58 in San Diego, and cooling down into the lower 50s for Borrego Springs, 41 in Mount Laguna, with clear conditions. Remain on the dry side for your Friday. High pressure allowing for a cold morning. Still going to be pretty windy out, and we'll be looking at those light winds coming back into play as we close out your Friday. 84 for Oceanside. Chance for some clouds at the coast. We'll have a better chance for clouds into your Saturday. Mid-80s for Borrego Springs, and topping off at 63 for Mount Laguna. High of 81 in San Diego. These temperatures will continue to drop as we do have a trough coming our way. That's going to allow for a bit more onshore flow. So San Diego tomorrow, high of 84. And topping off in the upper 70s Saturday and Sunday, remaining in the upper 70s through your extended forecast. Inland areas, you hold steady here, mid-80s Saturday, Sunday, all the way into your Tuesday with dry conditions. Out to the mountains, we're in the 60s, lower 60s for Friday, upper 60s Saturday. Going to be on the cool side through the early week. And out to the deserts, going to be noticing temperatures rising into your Monday. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Daji Swad. Back to you.
Daji, thanks. A new report shows nearly 2/3 of North American birds will go extinct if the Earth keeps getting hotter. That's according to the National Audubon Society. The study says if global warming causes temperatures to rise 3 degrees Celsius, birds like orioles, eagles, and gulls could die off. The research comes after a report showed the U.S. and Canada lost 2.9 billion birds in the last 50 years. For most of us, having a car is a necessity. We need one, but we could all do without the expenses. In tonight's Consumer Watch, KPBS Chris Underwood shares 5 simple things you can do right now to save on car costs.
Insurance, gas, oil changes and repairs, some of the many car costs that can drain your wallet. But there are ways to keep your car's demands at a minimum. One tip, take a defensive driving course. Safe and careful drivers are cheaper to insure. According to AARP, taking a driver's ed class could save you up to $200 annually with your insurance company. Another idea from AARP, use cruise control. It can reduce highway fuel usage by 7%. Depending on how you drive and how far, you could save as much as $70 per year. Tip 3, be smart about gas. Gassing up likely eats up much of your car budget. So, find the cheapest prices in your area by downloading apps like GasBuddy or Waze. And several grocery stores or credit cards offer loyalty points that can be used at gas stations. Tip 4, keep your tires properly inflated. The EPA says driving with properly inflated tires can improve your gas mileage up to 3%. And the final tip, take good care of your car. That means keeping up with regular oil changes, air filter replacements, and even something as simple as new wiper blades can keep those engines revving longer. Chris Underwood, KPBS News.
Feel like your cable bill just keeps going up? It probably is. Consumer Reports says add-on fees are tacking on an additional $450 to your cable bill every year. The report looked at almost 800 cable bills and found hidden fees tucked away in the fine print. An executive with Consumer Reports called the fees sneaky and confusing, and he said the fees disguise the true costs that consumers are paying for cable every month. The fees go by names like broadcast TV fee and HD technology fee, and they add up to big money. Consumer Reports found cable operators rake in $28 billion in fees that are not mandated by the government. To break that down, and it comes to an additional $37 a month that cable subscribers are paying. You can try and haggle with your cable company over the fees, but there's one surefire way to make the fees disappear: cut the cable cord. You can get your local channels with an antenna, and there are a number of internet alternatives to cable. YouTube TV, Hulu with live TV, and PlayStation View are all options. For more on the hidden fees from cable companies, check out the website Consumer Reports launched devoted to the fees and charges. It's whatthefee.com.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, 2 associates of Rudy Giuliani are arrested on campaign finance charges while trying to flee the country. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A brand new center that provides social and medical services to seniors opened up in San Marcos today. The Gary and Mary West Pace Center in San Marcos is a 20,000 square foot facility that will offer a wide range of services to seniors, including dentistry, physical and occupational therapy, and coordinated health care. Renata Smith, director of the center, says it helps seniors stay in their home as they age.
The goal of this program is to keep seniors in their homes and in their communities, functioning well where they want to be. It's been shown that most seniors do not want to go into a skilled setting as they age. They prefer to stay in their communities and remain empowered and have dignity in their lives.
And the center will provide services to seniors enrolled in Medicare and Medi-Cal, as well as people enrolled only in medical and people who want to pay privately as well. Feeling down? Need help coping? Well, as part of National Mental Illness Awareness Week, efforts are being made to empower people struggling to get help. KPBS health reporter Taryn Minto tells us resources are within reach.
San Diegans can look to their primary care doctor or even their job.
Start with your health plan. Start with your primary care doctor.
Catherine Nicario is the CEO of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, San Diego.
Most primary care physicians these days are trained in asking about just simple depression questions on an annual visit or a regular office visit. But you can start that conversation with your primary care doctor.
Or most employers have an EAP. That's Employee Assistance Program,
which is a confidential part of the benefit, and you can call the EAP line and get help.
She encouraged people to call NAMI San Diego for more help finding resources. Taryn Minto, KPBS News.
Californians can also now call a phone number if they need emotional support. A new statewide non-emergency helpline connects callers with peer counselors. For local residents, though, the state number is an additional option. San Diego County's Access and Crisis Line has actually been around for more than 20 years. Dr. Michael Bailey is the medical director for the public sector at Optum, which manages the free Access and Crisis Line.
And so by calling the toll-free number, which is 888-724-7240, and we selected that number because of the 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, you're connected with a mental health clinician. So as opposed to a peer counselor, here in San Diego, you'll be speaking with a mental health professional.
This state line has limited hours and only helps just before someone reaches a crisis point. San Diego's offers help at any stage, though. In tonight's Health Minute, do you know where the dirtiest places in your house are? If you don't, you may be scrubbing in the wrong place. More now from reporter Reed Binnen.
There are germs lurking everywhere in our homes, from the kitchen to the bathroom. But what exactly should we be cleaning and how often? In the bathroom, don't just focus on scrubbing the toilet. It's actually cleaner than you think. According to microbiologist Charles Gerber, if you want to cut down on the bacteria in the rest of the room, make sure you close the lid before you flush. Fecal matter can get tossed several feet in the air, which means your toothbrush, makeup, and even towels could get hit. Speaking of towels, those moist cloths are the perfect place for bacteria like E. coli to grow. So make sure you wash them with hot water every 3 or 4 days, Gerber says. In the kitchen, those rags and sponges used to wipe down everything are perfect at collecting bacteria like E. coli and salmonella. Think you can just throw them in the microwave or dishwasher to clean? Think again. Your best bet is to just replace them weekly. And surprisingly, water reservoirs like the ones in your coffee machine are one of the germiest places in the kitchen, according to the National Safety Foundation. Check the owner's manual on how to clean it monthly. For today's Health Minute, I'm Reed Binion.
All good to know. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening, everyone.